I haven't seen much videos online about the V11, Sno-Power V11, so kind of wanted to give my personal review. I think we've had it for about a little over a year now. Obviously, last year we didn't have much for snow with it to use it on, but this year we've had plenty to actually get a good solid standpoint on it, I guess. But basically, they're the same as the F14 from here back. I'd say F14 and F12s. You know, basically the only difference is probably wing cylinders, and then the moldboards themselves are different from the F12 to F14. So, but yeah, just haven't seen much online, I guess, on these yet. So I know people are probably asking a little bit more detail on them. So it's a 2-foot main moldboard in the center, and then we got 5-foot wings on each side there. And as far as issues go, you know, when they first came out, the center moldboard bolts kept snapping. Moldboard would break right off, or one of the outside bolts would break, or two of them. It was they would literally just cutting edge would fall into, you know, a groove of cement, and that's all it took, and would break it. And took Sno-Power a while to come up with a fix for it. It was probably a good month or two, but this ended up being their fix, which was actually enhanced the performance of it a lot. Before, it used to just be 3 bolts, and it would not articulate or anything. They came up with this new design. You got your main center bolt, and there's all these other ones, but this whole thing can articulate as well, just like the side wings can, which actually made a big difference. It helped out a lot. And then of course they added the blocks on all the cutting edges, and those are basically they put those there for strength in those areas, because those are areas that tend to get damaged the most, I guess. I know I had issues with corners that were bending on the previous cutting edges they had on here, but otherwise now they did this setup, and you know, haven't had a single issue this year so far. No, we've done 6 snow plowings with it. I'd say we're usually out for about, I don't know, 12 hours or so on a 4-inch snowstorm, probably about 8 on a 2-inch snow. But otherwise, yeah, haven't had much for issues since then. I guess some of the pros, you know, I guess as far as history, what I've had in the past, you know, I've had the Boss Drag Pros with the V plows on the front, the 180Z, which was great. It just, it got old, you know, constantly looking back. And then, of course, you know, you got the having that in your back, it wasn't easy to unhook, and then it seemed like your box of your truck was always occupied and whatnot, which is not the end of the world, but it just, you know, a lot to keep track of behind you, basically. Otherwise, it was nice. There was no active cutting edge or anything, so, you know, each cutting edge that was on it would, you know, if you go over bumps or like that, it would leave a bunch of snow in between and whatnot. So so I went from that to an F14. Actually had a couple of them. Those were great plows. Unfortunately, I had the first generation of them, so that had all the issues, it seemed like. And but when they worked, it was awesome. And yeah, you know, it couldn't. Besides those issues, they were, yeah, with the downforce, active cutting edge, and whatnot. It was good. Only thing, you know, it was tough to fit in some tight areas. With this one, I guess a good example is you go to restaurants and you got the dumpster rooms or boxes, whatever you want to call them. A lot of times those are tight. You get the gate open and you have, you know, less than 8 feet, it seemed like, to go in there and back drag snow that drifted around in there and whatnot. Whereas this one tucks in enough, actually, to do that. So that saved a ton of time, a lot less shoveling and whatnot, because those tend to always drift out a lot. So, but between that and, other thing with the F14s that I had was gas stations. You got the in-ground fuel tanks, and the lids are always raised. It would always leave snow, because there'd always be like, 3, 4, 5 lids right in the same vicinity. And having an 8-foot center moldboard that the F14s had, it would leave a bunch of snow in the center, even with downforce and whatnot. If one edge got up, kind of like this does, in a way, since I got this one edge is on, it would leave snow in the center. But instead of just being, that little bit, you got a whole 8-foot section of snow that you're kind of missing. I know it's tough. You have to try to go at different angles, things like that. Whereas this one, being 11 feet wide, you lose a little bit of how much snow you can carry across. But having smaller cutting edges and moldboards and whatnot, it would I can get the snow out of any of that stuff in between all the lids and whatnot that are raised. It cleans up a lot better is what I'm trying to say, I guess, compared to the F14s did. So I still, I think near future, I think we're going to get another F14, or maybe the new Arctic Razorback, have those in our arsenal, because it's still nice to have, especially with the big parking lots and stuff. There's just definitely wouldn't get rid of this one, though. There's definitely places where this shines, I'd say. But otherwise, things are all the same. You got your LED light and whatnot. The new brackets, I'm connected to a Boss actually under there, and that's just a conversion that Sno-Power has from the Boss bracket conversion and then the plow. So, but otherwise, it's been good so far in the few snowfalls that we've been able to use it on. We get some questions on the cutting edges as far as articulation and all that stuff goes. And I mean, like I said, the center one now that they did the update articulates a little bit, which does help considerably. And I think it actually saves on damage to the plow, allowing that to pivot a little bit in the center. But otherwise, I just put this block of wood there, just kind of show you guys articulation that it's got. So, but as you can see how much articulation it actually has. It's a matter of a good 6 inches at least it's got, which has been awesome. Having down pressure with active cutting edges is, it's kind of a game changer, especially with your accounts that they want them salted right away. They want no snow at all. So when you have down pressure with active cutting edges, you get to use less salt, and the salt works twice as fast, I'd say. It just bites right in because it doesn't have as much snow to deal with, so to melt off. But otherwise, as far as weight goes, compared to the F14, it's actually, it's probably maybe 100 pounds lighter. I'd say the only benefit is that the weight isn't as far out as a F12 or F14, because these wings, they tuck in quite a ways. So, traveling and whatnot, you'll get a lot more weight closer to the truck, which, in reality is less weight out front. So, to a point. I'm just running, this one's actually just on an 09 3/4 ton, just a gasser actually. So, not even a diesel. But one thing I've noticed with any plow, I'd say that's 800 pounds or more. Another plowing game changer, I'd say, is these new weight kits from Arctic. They go right in the receiver, and this thing's been just amazing. First of all, I used to put sandbags in the back, a few hundred pounds of sandbags, which helped a little bit. But having this, behind the rear wheels all the way back here, that's about 900 pounds right there. And it is, it just boggles me, I guess, how much more traction I've got. I can run my tires more bald, I guess, get more life out of them than I could before. And one thing to keep in mind, a reason for that is with down pressure, you know, it's not much weight, but it does take weight off the front of the truck as well. But that's where it's nice to have more traction in back, just because, yeah, you don't have as much in front because it's taking weight technically off the front wheels. So they'll spin a little bit more, but having that extra weight on there is awesome. You know, it kind of, definitely not a diesel or anything like that. Diesels, I know the engine itself weighs a few hundred pounds more, and that can push through the hard pack stuff easier than this can, but this helps it, you know, carry its weight. It gets into a tough section of snow, especially at gas stations where it's been packed down, like I said, hard pack and whatnot. It will help it push through that a lot better. So, but anyways, yeah, wanted to give the review of it. Any questions, you can let us know in the comments, but otherwise yeah, so far been happy. Once they fixed that update, like I said, it took a while. Luckily there wasn't much for snow last year, so you know, it's kind of disappointing, you know, buying a brand new plow and it being out for a month or two, whatever it was, but their fix has been awesome, I'd say. So, and especially that they kind of updated it to where it actually articulates, whereas the previous one did not. So, but otherwise, yeah, I'd say two places that it shines, you know, it does gravel a little bit better than the F14s, especially when you get to the real wet and heavy snows, where the F14 is just too big for pushing that stuff. I guess especially with a gas job like this one is. This one, you know, really don't have issues on the real wet and heavy stuff as far as pushing goes, and still cleans it up fairly well. You know, only issue I had when it was real wet and heavy was ice would get built up behind this cutting edge, and it would basically stop the cutting edge from being able to go down all the way, because too much snow or ice got built up behind it. It was really kind of an odd wet heavy snow where we'd start plowing and it would almost instantly start freezing the second we got the ground exposed, and then whatever liquid got on the plow, it would freeze right away. So that was the only issue, I guess, when it was wet and heavy snows that we had with it as well. But otherwise, yeah, it scrapes nicer than the F14s and stuff. Obviously doesn't carry as much snow across the parking lot as an F14 or F12, but still we got a total of 11 feet going across, so it still helps a lot. And especially when it's wet and heavy, those F12s and F14s, you can't wing those at all. And where this one, you can actually wing snow. If you're doing a big parking lot, you can actually wing it one way for quite a while. But otherwise, yeah, I'd say future, I probably won't ever get rid of this one, but we still would add a, you know, F14 or, like I said, the Arctic Razorback maybe to the arsenal, so along with this. But otherwise, there's definitely a, you know, place and time for this size plow and whatnot. And it is nice that it's, you know, bigger than a 9 or 10 foot V plow, and it, you know, having a 2-foot moldboard, you know, even comparing it to the 9.2 Bosses or even a 10-foot, you know, having that 2-foot moldboard actually increases your containment level substantially compared to a V plow technically that pivots right in the center. So it does make a big difference. So, but anyways, that is I guess all I wanted to say on this. I was hopefully this helps other people out that are buying these. Like I said, so far this year, after I think, like I said, 6 snowplows we've done so far, we haven't really had an issue with it. So, and obviously, being that you can lift it up and bring the tips back, you don't have to worry about dragging going on. I'll see if I can get a video of that. So as you can see, this side hits, but now you can lift the front up. So a lot better going down the highway and any roads. So tuck it way in, let you guys see what it looks like that. So as you can see, travel wise, you get a lot more of the weight closer to the truck compared to the F12s and the F14s, but tucks up pretty nice. Like I said, we can get into tighter areas when we have to back drag, and the fact that it has down pressure and the active cutting edges in those dumpster boxes that we have to back drag out of and whatnot at restaurants and our quick trips, things like that, it does it a lot better, I'd say. So, and the second you put it down, wings drop. So, and then when you pick it up, if I can get a video of that, the wings will suck in. Which helps out transport and whatever else. So it's definitely nice having that active cutting edge. So yeah, any questions, let us know. Thanks.